I have these two files open in Photoshop, and we're going to put them together and create a photo illustration with this. Now with the move tool, if I take this image, now you notice their images are exactly the same size, so shot without moving the camera. If I take this top image, move it over here, and let it go, obviously wherever I drop it, that's where it's going to land. I'll Command Z that. But if I hold down my Shift key and do the same thing, bring it over and drop it, it registers itself perfectly on top of the other image. We'll close this one off now. We'll work on this one. So that's one of the beauties of Photoshop is two images are exactly the same size. Using the Move tool, if you use the Shift key, it'll bring that image over. And if you use a selection of one area, it'll bring that selection right to the exact same XY coordinated spot of the new shot, as long as the two shots are the same size. Now, first thing we want to do is take a look. We have two layers, right? I'm going to turn off this top layer so we see the bottom layer. And let's make that bottom layer actually a layer. So we have two layers, layer 0 and 1. And we're going to turn this one into a smart object so we can run a smart filter on that. So we'll go up to Filter, Convert for Smart Filters, which turns that into a smart object. Now with this top filter highlighted and visible, we're going to change the blend mode from normal to lighten. Now what that's going to say is any pixel that's lighter than what's underneath it, the underlining pixel, it's going to show, and if it's darker it won't show. So boom, automatically that black part goes away. Now you say, well, that doesn't do us any good. It kind of looks like a regular shot. We got this shot and we got that shot. So what we're going to do with this is we're going to go to the bottom layer, and since it's a smart object, we'll go to Filter, Blur, Gaussian blur. And we'll play around with the amount of blur here. And you notice I'll start with 0, and as I bring that up, watch that cool black line that kind of gets around. I can go crazy with it, just get a little hog wild, but I think we want to go about right in here. But the beauty of this is, if I don't like something, I can always go back and work with that and change the amount. It's a little bit too much. So we'll start about right there. That's kind of really cool, like the way it sort of has a black edge around the whole thing. Okay, you can see here it says Smart Filter with the Gaussian blur. Now whenever I do a blur, I immediately always add 3% noise. So let's go ahead and do that too. Filter, Noise, because this puts the grain back into the photograph. Whenever we blur something, the noise is eradicated. The grain is eradicated, so we got to add a little noise to put back the regular grain so it matches up. And if we don't do that later on, when we go to print, 3 is my number, hit OK, so I've got that set. That way the grain structure of the top shot is going to at least have a little grain to match with the bottom shot. And you have to play with the number, but 3 is a really good number for most digital cameras for bringing normal amount of noise in. Now, I don't like the way these two images are coming together, so on this top image, I'm going to add a regular layer mask by clicking the new layer mask icon, and that'll put a white layer mask here and a white reveal, so the image is still totally revealed. I'll go to a paintbrush. Let's double check and see what our brush options are. And I want to make sure that the shape dynamics is turned off. I don't want it to start out small and then get wider as I press down with my tablet. I'm going to keep that clicked off so that we have the same wide brush, and I'm going to use my left bracket key to reduce that size a little bit. And we're going to use a very high opacity and low flow, so we'll just keep it about 14 or 15, and I'm going to just slowly, I'm going to work on these corners here. I'm almost going to vignette the corner of this a little bit and just kind of come in here, and I'm going to just bring a vignette in here, kind of merge this so we don't have this hard line. I want to kind of just bring this in right through here. I'm going to make the brush a little bit bigger, and just I'm running it across the bottom. Almost like a spotlight effect, which I like right about here. That's working good. I'll make my brush a little smaller. You can see just a little few spots where it's mixing. Right in here. That's looking pretty good. Okay, the next step is, it's pretty good the way it is, but I got one more effect that I want to do here. I'll go back to the Layers panel, and I want to merge all this into one layer. So we'll do our merge keyboard shortcut. I want to flatten the image because I want to keep these layers all separate in case I have to go back and adjust them later. So I'll do Command Option Shift E or Control Alt Shift E, which will bring up a new blank layer and take all the elements we've got here and paste them into one layer without flattening the rest of the image. Now I think at this point we also want to make this into a smart object. So I'm going to, with that highlighted, I will go Filter, Convert for Smart Filters. And what I'm going to do here is I'm going to change this blend mode from normal to darken. And I'm going to then add a blur to this layer here, and also we'll just do it because it's going to be a little bit different amount. So we'll go blur, Gaussian blur, and you can see what it just did here as I do the preview. It gives it a kind of a funky illustrative look around the whole thing. You can see it takes out a lot of the detail, but it's very, very cool look. So it's all it is a blurry layer with a darken blend mode. I'll hit OK, and then of course I want to add a little noise to that. Filter, noise, add noise, and maybe 3 again, just to make sure we have a tooth for that. And that's my finished look. Let me go ahead and close that off and hit the tools and bring that up a little bit. And it gives me a very cool illustrative look that is just a little bit better than just a straightforward. It's kind of like, almost like it has a little bit of an illustrator look, and the black line and the little blur just sort of give this thing a little bit more interest. So it's kind of a cool way to take a product that's very simple and give it a little bit more than just selective focus. It has this, what we call this effect is split diffusion, and I've sort of nicknamed this extra darken blend mode, giving it the treatment. So hopefully this will give you a few ideas on how you can spice up. You can do this on portraits, on landscapes, but it works really, really well on product photography.